Okay, everyone, welcome. This is college night for freshmen and sophomores. This is our third virtual college counseling event this year. And I've said this at all of our events. I'll say it again. We wish we were in the theater looking at all of your faces and having a conversation, but are so grateful for this technology that still allows us to come together and to talk about these important topics. So thank you for joining us. We know that you all are in a world where Zoom is a daily part of your lives, and so thank you for giving us this particular hour to talk college counseling. I am recording this event, so our goal is to make this available for you all to view later, to view again, to share with a family member. So we'll be sending that out to everyone in an email tomorrow. I am Tia Hill, I'm the Director of College Counseling, and I'm joined tonight by several people, including Caitlin Bart, who is leaving. She is our College Counseling and Admission Associate. She and I have worked together now, I think, for 6 years, and have worked together with each class since that time and are excited to be working with all of you. Now, as you heard me say in the introduction video, we shared that video on Monday in an email, and we talked a lot about Caitlin and I working as your GPS. And that's something you'll hear us say throughout this process, that we are here to be your guide through the college search, through the application process. That's exactly what tonight is all about. It's about Caitlin and I providing you with information with the help of some friends that will give you all the tools that you need to be more informed and more prepared. I want to show our agenda for this evening. We have several speakers. We will begin with a hello from Head of School, Mr. Pete Moore, then Head of Upper School, Mr. Smith. Mrs. Bart will then say hello, and we will hear from our admission expert, Taylor Florio. After you've heard from each of us, we're going to have a discussion where we'll highlight a few key areas. We're going to talk specifically about the importance of students knowing who they are and what their interests are. We'll talk about the process of developing college criteria. We have an interactive element. We're going to participate all together in a Kahoot quiz, and then we're going to talk about college rankings. So all of that being said, I am going to turn it over to Mr. Moore to say hello.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here this evening. For those parents who I haven't met, my name's Pete Moore, and I have the great honor of being the head of school here at Davidson Day. So I'd just like to highlight a few things this evening. The first thing I'd like to talk about is just briefly about Mrs. Hill and Mrs. Bart, and just how exceptionally lucky we are to have them guiding our students and families throughout the college process. Last week, we have a Davidson Day podcast, and last week I interviewed them just about the college admissions process and their love of their job. And I was just so inspired by how, and I use this term to describe them a lot, is how like fiercely loyal they are to the students that are in their care and the families that are in their care. And, you know, their expertise has been critical in the past, but their expertise, their experience, and their connections have really come to the fore as we've been trying to navigate the college admissions process during COVID. And their connections, such as they have with Taylor and other people, have really helped our families immensely, and will continue to do that as, you know, the landscape changes so much with the college admissions process. And, you know, things that could have taken years to evolve have happened very, very quickly, whether that's be different colleges going test optional, and it's just so many different things are evolving. And so their experience and friendships they have in so many in colleges and connections is really has helped us this year, and will going forward as well. So as the process unfolds, it can seem very daunting, especially maybe like me, you went through the college admissions process a long time ago, or that you went through it in another country and aren't that familiar with it, there is a book that I'd like to recommend, and it is The Years That Matter Most, How College Makes or Breaks Us, by a gentleman named Paul Tuft. It's released 2 years ago, and I read it about 2 years ago. And even though a lot has changed in sort of like in our COVID world, I would highly recommend it. It just sort of gives you a look sort of below the hood, and you're able to learn much more about the process. Then things have changed so much, and just also like getting a sense of sort of the inner workings. And so I have that here just to press in the chat. So that's a book I would mention. Oh, there's me. But the other thing I'd like to talk about is it is daunting to suddenly be thinking about like this process. There is so much in the media, and Tia and Caitlin and I were speaking about this last week. Just there's so much misinformation, whether it be in movies or TV shows, even in the media, about the process. And so something that I'd like to talk about is just the power of small action. So instead of getting really overwhelmed by the whole process, I want to talk a little bit about another book, which is called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And in the book, he talks about how the key to achieving any goal is by doing small, almost microscopic actions over a long period of time. And so one of my favorite quotes from the book is, it is comforting to know that you only need to take a series of tiny steps consistently over time to radically improve your life. So when we come to this college admissions process, there's not like the one event that you need to do. It's just a series of tiny, almost microscopic events. And this resonated with me for many reasons. And one is a story I like to tell, is that my grandmother used to say a very similar thing. So she did needlework, and she would create these massive tapestries. And so when I was about 12 years old, she created a really large tapestry. I don't know the exact dimensions, but it was enormous. And it hung in the Supreme Court in Adelaide in South Australia. And looking at these things, and there's these tiny little bits of needlework that go into it. And I said, like, how did you do that? And she replied, a little bit often. And she would repeat this phrase to me whenever I was struggling with something as I got older. And so I was saying, this is really hard. And she would say, just remember, just do a little bit often. And so as you go through this process, and you are fortunate to have Tia and Caitlin sort of navigating your family through this, is just keep that in mind, is that if you just do a little bit often, in 2 to 3 years, you'll get to the point where the decision will be there, and you'll know what will be happening, and it won't be because of some sort of like massive event. It'll just be these tiny little steps that you've taken that have been done in a very thoughtful, deliberate way that has led to this sort of the outcome that you're hoping for. So again, thank you for being here this evening, and it's my great pleasure to hand over to my friend and colleague, Mike Smith.
Good, thank you, Mr. Moore, I appreciate it. And thank you all for being here. I gotta tell you that so far, I'm pretty relieved that I haven't accidentally pushed some button to activate, a filter that turns me into a cat. For those of you who have seen that in the past 48 hours, I'm in the demographic that could do that. So far, so good, right? I'm loath to make too many assumptions, but most of us on this call, particularly if you are contemporaries of mine, probably had similar experiences with college guidance. That was, for me, one 5-minute meeting with someone who didn't know me from Adam. In fact, he thought I was my older brother for the first couple of minutes until I corrected him. He took one look at my SAT scores, that was it, and listed a range of plausible schools for me, and then wished me luck, told me to tell my brother hello, and out his door I went into the hallway, where there was a line of another 50 or 60 kids who were waiting for their 5-minute meeting that afternoon. And that was it. You've already experienced here something that exceeds that scenario. But I want to reiterate what Mr. Moore just said. You could not be in better hands than you are right now. Both Tia and Caitlin both came from the other side of the proverbial desk, actually the literal desk. They were both college admissions officers at their respective alma maters, and have each read literally thousands and thousands of applications from high school students. In fact, we met Ms. Hill because she was the regional representative for Furman University, who called on Davidson Day. So she got to know us literally from the other side of the desk. So you couldn't be in better hands. I've always considered their counseling to be insider trading because of their knowledge of everything that all facets of this journey. So please take full advantage of not only tonight, but over the next 5 years of their counseling. And with that, again, thank you for being here. I will turn it back to Ms. Bart. Thank you. Don't turn yourself into a cat.
Well, Mrs. Barnt sent me a note and is having, for some reason, she can't unmute herself. We've seen a lot of Zoom issues, and the inability to unmute has not been one of them. So she is going to, I think, exit and rejoin. But she and I have shared our notes. And so I'm going to move forward with the introduction of Taylor, which won't be nearly as interesting because Caitlin and Taylor are actually very good friends and former colleagues. So they work together at Queen's University of Charlotte and have stayed very close and very well connected. And then Taylor has now moved on to the University of Alabama. And so I've got a short bio here that she is originally from Florida, like me. Insert like Mrs. Barnt. They, however, didn't meet until later. Taylor earned her bachelor's degree at Florida Gulf Coast University in communication and public relations. And prior to her role at the University of Alabama, she worked in admission at Queen's University of Charlotte. She now calls the West Side neighborhood of Smallville in Charlotte her home. Taylor is passionate about coffee, supporting local, and obviously working with students and their families like all of you through the college search process. So I'm going to turn it over to Taylor to say a little bit.
Thank you, Tia. Hi, everybody. It is so great to be joining you. I have also stepped on that stage in the auditorium, so I'm glad to be rejoining new families at Davidson Day. I absolutely love your college counselors. And just to give you an idea of my experience, I have worked at a small private institution and have also spent time in a large public out-of-state school. So I think the reason why they asked me to join in is just from a sheer perspective of all sides of the desk. I know what it's like to be selective, and I know what it's like to recruit 40,000 students at once. So I'm really excited to be joining you tonight, and thank you for having me.
Great. So guys, we're going to move into that second part of our agenda, a conversation about the, here's Mrs. Barnt. We're going to see if she can reconnect to audio. A conversation about knowing yourself. So now that Taylor's spoken and Mrs. Barnt is unmuted, we will go to you, Mrs. Barnt, to talk about knowing yourself.
That was the weirdest thing. Also, when I logged back on, I got a message that some hackers might be trying to take my security. So maybe I was being hacked. We'll cross that bridge another night, but that was the first time. I'm so sad I missed introducing Taylor, a dear friend of mine, but like Ms. Hill said, we will move on to the meat of the program. And so, Ms. Hill, you talked about step one, right? You just introduced myself for that. Great. So we want you all to know that your academic strengths are really important, but it's much more than that. It's deeper than that, and it's a process right now, especially in 9th and 10th grade, taking the time to dive deeper into those things. And what does that mean? The grades are
sorry, you jumped ahead a little bit.
Oh, I did.
Yes, I didn't get through the full intro. So guys, let's back up. We're gonna just like rewind as if Mrs. Florio, as if Taylor just stopped talking. And we are gonna have no more technical glitches. So yes, no, it's gonna be perfectly smooth from here. We just wanted to remind you once more, I mentioned it earlier in the intro, but we sent a video on Monday that went through A lot of the information we would have shared at an in-person event, and we decided to do it through an introductory video because we didn't want to miss anything. We didn't want you to miss anything. So Miss Barnt and I use that to share our college counseling philosophy, our expectations for the timeline, specifically focusing on 9th and 10th grade. We talked about the components of a college application, and we talked about standardized testing recommendations. So if you haven't watched that already, we do recommend that you do that soon. And that's giving us the freedom in this video to talk about some of what we consider the building blocks of the admission process. And as 9th and 10th graders, this is the time to be focused on those building blocks. So picking a college, we think picking a place that you can spend 4 years really truly is best viewed as a process. And those first 2 steps, as you've heard me say a few times, step 1 is knowing yourself. And then step 2 is developing some college criteria. So now with that being said, Mrs. Mark can jump into how you can get to know yourself academically, extracurricularly, and beyond.
Ooh, I didn't miss as much as I thought. It felt like a lifetime being away. And so I just assumed that I got really ahead or really behind. So I got ahead a little bit, but certainly obviously makes sense in the greater picture. We know grades don't always tell your full story. So that's why we encourage conversations and relationships with your teachers, reading those comments that they've written for you in the report cards. Those are really valuable insights to who you are as a learner and how you digest their information and how they see you as a student. In advisory, we get to talk about who you are, your strengths, your weaknesses. We do a number of activities that may or may not seem directly related to college counseling, but this process of exploring yourself, exploring your strengths and weaknesses is important to the greater process. It's just a small step. It's just a little bit along the way as part of a bigger picture. And that end goal for you all as students is to have plans after graduation. As we said in the introductory video, talking about and exploring your extracurriculars, not just as things that you enjoy doing, but really how can you turn those things that you enjoy doing into something productive in your future. College Counseling Office, we end up playing a kind of a immediate role in this when we administer the PSAT and the Summer Enrichment Guide that we provide each year that will be coming out later this month. With the assessments we administer to you all throughout the year, for sophomores, you will see this starting to happen here in the second semester, thinking about science, getting into SCORE, playing brain games. And so while it may or may not seem like everything is connected to college counseling or nothing is connected to college counseling, some things may be really obvious, other things might be less obvious. And so wanting to point out to you some of those opportunities that you've had or will have in 9th and 10th grade. As juniors, just looking ahead, we'll continue to provide you opportunities to explore what you're looking for in a college. It's called the Self-Survey for the College Bound. It touches on your eagerness for college, affection for knowledge, and social consciousness. Some of that is not relevant to you in 9th and 10th grade, so that's why we're intentional about introducing it in your junior year. College quality worksheets that dissect size, academic environment, religious or not, location, student body characteristics. That nitty-gritty stuff is about the universities and less about you. In 9th and 10th grade, we really want you getting immersed in your Davidson Day experience in and outside of the classroom. So I've said a lot. Altogether, these resources provide great material for you to reflect on your aptitudes, interests, help you guide your conversation with your college counselor, with a friend, with a family member. But more importantly, we want to hear from Taylor, really want her to kind of dissect, how does all this impact your applications? What does this look like for her on the other side of the desk? And so certainly want to give her a moment to chime in. I will pause. If there's anything, Taylor, I said that you have questions about or reference, I'll jump back in. But for the most part, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Kaylin. So, you know, from admissions recruiter, admissions counselor perspective, the one thing that I think is so special and attractive about a student when you're working with them is their ability to know themselves. And that is literally what Ms. Barnt just went over. They are creating tools for you to get to know yourself as you grow into who you are and who you will become in college and in a career setting. And, you know, I love to quote Drake. Drake is my favorite. He's got a quote in there that says, know yourself, know your worth. And that is exactly what I love when I speak to students who can clearly identify who it is they are, what they love being involved in, what really makes them tick, and what is going to be motivating for them in college. And so as you start kind of figuring out what that looks like and who you are, I would just encourage you all to don't look at these assessments or these discoveries or quizzes as work and homework. Think of it as an opportunity to learn yourself. I went to a big school, kind of like what Mr. Smith was talking about, where you've just got hundreds of students cycling through the door of their counseling office, and they don't really give you a lot of resources. They just say, well, what's your GPA? Here's some schools that I think would be great, you know, good luck. And you have an amazing opportunity to work one-on-one with your college counselors who can give you a really good sense of who you are and what you're looking for. So I encourage you guys to really hone in on that and take advantage of what you have in front of you, because I don't think you realize that not everyone gets that resource. And that's a really special quality to have when you start having conversations with people like me on the college admission side. It allows me to know who you are when I'm reading your application, or maybe going to bat for you at a later time for scholarships or anything. I can really talk about who you are as a person and know more about you than just what's on your transcript.
I'm terrified to mute myself, guys, and unmute myself. But wonderful, Taylor. Thanks so much for sharing that. I love how you brought in your personal experience, because what happens today does impact you for the rest of your life. And not saying that to mean that in a big way, but saying that to show you how the little bit does go a long way. So let's move on to our second building block, which is developing college criteria. We're going to spend a little bit more time here talking about how do you conduct research, utilizing your resources, and learning more about the schools. That's really where we want you all to be focused right now. And so I'm actually going to turn it over to Taylor and let her kick us off for this one.
Yeah, and Mr. Moore said it perfectly, a little bit often. I could not be more on board with that saying. I wrote it down so that I can use it for future references. You all as sophomores and freshmen have such a great opportunity to start doing a little bit often. That way, once you become a junior or a senior, it doesn't feel as overwhelming or overcompensating of like everything that you're thinking about that is college admissions, because it will get crazy, don't worry. I want to talk about a few things that I think you should at least be starting to think about. And there are definitely things that you guys can start doing now as underclassmen that will help set you up well for your junior and senior year. The first thing is knowing that every single school that you could possibly be interested in will have a representative that is assigned to either you as a student or your high school. And so that can be a really great way to kind of filter out the chaos of a college website or the unknown of, okay, what phone number do I call? What email do I reach out to? Almost always there will be one person designated for your high school or you as a student, and that person will probably be reaching out to you at some point in the process, but they're very easy to find on a college website. It's a very easy way to, you know, maybe type in, let's say UNC Charlotte, Davidson Day or Davidson, you know, whatever county you live in, they will typically show up on a search. So know that there are resources in that regard. And also be aware that a lot of recruiters live here in the greater Charlotte area. I'm a part of a network called Crown. We are a network of regional recruiters that represent a ton of universities, as you know, like small private schools like Furman and really big schools like South Carolina, Alabama, and things like that. So know that the resources are here for you and they're very easy to find. And I would encourage you guys to go find them and hold on to those relationships and contact information. You guys you're really lucky in the sense that you have the opportunity to attend virtual rep visits as a freshman. Not every school lets their students do that. And so you guys are actually in a really good place where even if you just want to attend to kind of get a feel for what those visits look like, I would highly encourage you to sign up for those as you're able. Your counselors give you the schedule of who's coming. I know that they see a ton of representatives. I am one of those people. I show up twice a year usually and try to get in front of Davidson Day students. And there's a reason for that. Like, I'm spending my time pursuing Davidson Day, not because I don't have anything else to do. It's because I want to educate students at your school about my institution. And there are so many great colleges and universities in the United States, so many to choose from. And if I were you, I would be a little overwhelmed at the number of colleges that you have to offer. So every time you get a chance to sit in on those visits, it gives you a little bit more of an identifying factor of what that school is all about and if it might be a good fit for you. It's also a really good way of like weaning schools out. If you thought you would be in love with, XYZ university, and then you attended their session and you're like, you know what, I don't really know if that's a good fit. At least you know. And so I would definitely encourage you guys to keep your eye out for those and sign up for them when you can. If for some reason there is an opportunity for you to attend a virtual visit on the college's side, take advantage of that. I know that we live in a virtual world, but that is the reality that we're in. So if there is a free, convenient way for you to see colleges in California and at the bottom of Texas and in Idaho, I mean, you name it, now's the time. It costs you $0. It costs you very little time. You don't have to get in a car and drive forever. You don't have to get on an airplane. You can hear about all these different universities and colleges in the comfort of your own home. And so almost every university is going to be offering these at this point. If anything, I would say that this might be the trend of the future. We are, as universities, we are talking about how we can be more equitable and more accessible even after the life of, COVID and not being able to see people in real life. And so know that this is something that will probably stay. And so it makes sense to kind of get used to it and see what kind of offerings are being available. I know for us specifically, we used to just offer general information sessions. Well, now you can hear directly from specific colleges like the College of Engineering, or if you're interested in Greek life or honors college, all these specified niche areas, things that we never offered before because we didn't have the capacity. But because of this virtual setting that everyone's in, there's tons of different ways to learn about a school in your pajamas, if that is what you want to do. Another way is getting one-on-one conversations with your recruiter. It is never too early. I have spoken to freshmen and sophomores before, and it's just because they want to start the conversation. I don't think you need to have, a laundry list of questions. I don't think you necessarily need to have everything figured out. But even if it's just to start a conversation of, hey, my name is Taylor, I live in Charlotte, and I'm interested in your school. That is a way that we can start building a relationship and getting to know each other better. And then on the reverse side, I just want to echo what has already been said, but Miss Barnt and Miss Hill build relationships with people like me. And yes, we used to work together, but even if we hadn't had that interaction, they would still be checking in and getting updates from me on my university's happenings. And I think you would be surprised as to how many people they know in the admissions world that will touch your application. They know us very well. They know our phone numbers. We chat all the time. So they are a really good resource for you and can definitely go to bat for you or have the right person to contact should you have questions throughout the process. So remember that they're on your side and they're working really hard for you. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is campus visits. It's never too early to see a college campus. Even if you're not taking an official tour, if you are going on vacation and you happen to be within 30 minutes of a university's campus, show up, go park, walk around, take a look. If you can get on a campus tour, I would highly encourage you to do so. And I think you'd be surprised with how many colleges are actually doing on-campus tours. Luckily, through the amount of time that we've had to get used to this new normal, a lot of universities are able to successfully and safely take on campus tours. And a little pro tip that I'll give you is if you schedule a campus tour, reach out to your recruiter, whoever's assigned to you or your high school, and ask them if there's anything else that you can do while you're on campus, because chances are they'll be able to create an extra meeting or an extra information session or allow you to kind of get a little bit more info than just the representative walking backwards showing you, the clock tower and the dorm. So make sure that you have a plan of attack and don't ever be afraid to ask for more. You never know what is going to be offered, and you never know what that university can offer you as it relates to a campus visit. I always use the analogy of jeans. If you were to go to a mall and go straight to like the Gap and pull a pair of jeans off the rack and buy them, the chances of them being a perfect fit are pretty slim. Whereas if you were to take a bunch of jeans, take them into the dressing room, try them all on, it gives you a better idea of which one's going to be the right pair. And the same rules apply to a college visit. It's one thing to see a really cool website or get a really cool piece of mail, or maybe even hear stories of, your aunt who went to whatever school and her fun times that she had. But until you walk the sidewalks and physically sit in those areas, it's hard to kind of see if it's going to be a good fit for you. So I highly encourage you to start getting in your heads and having those conversations with your family on what college visits look like and when can we go and where will we be and can we make a stop at, XY university. Did I leave anything out? Anything else that you guys want to add?
That was great. I do have a few things, I think, just to clarify and add on. And what I want to start with is, Taylor just went through such a great list of ways for you to learn about colleges, ways for you to learn about these communities. And so, in the bigger picture conversation of how do you develop criteria, I want to point out that everything she just mentioned is helpful to you in identifying how you're feeling as you're observing and seeing these things. So what I mean by that is, let's talk about a campus visit. Visiting a college might help you to develop criteria in a really big way. It might be that you're on Alabama's campus and you say, "This feels amazing," because how could you not, Taylor? You just will love everything you're seeing and roll tide to everybody you see. And if that's how you're feeling when you're there, that's a great note for you to make to yourself, that a big, involved campus feels good, that's a great potential match for you. But it also could be more subtle things. It could be that you're on Alabama's campus and you're listening to your tour guide talk about their experience within the psychology department. And maybe you thought psychology could be a good major for you, but everything you're hearing just isn't sitting well. It doesn't sound interesting. It doesn't sound engaging. And that could be a cue to you that psychology might not be the path that's right for you. And so the point I'm making here is that taking part in these activities might give you really big indicators about what your criteria should be, and might be something a little smaller, but all of that is relevant. And those are the types of conversations Mrs. Barnt and I have with each student. We ask you to speak about those tours and conversations with college reps and to tell us what was standing out as interesting and exciting and what was standing out potentially as not a great match or not something that lines up with your goals. I also want to clarify, we've got so many wonderful reps who visit campus, just like Taylor mentioned. Those visits typically happen in the fall. There could be a few this spring just because everybody's sort of reimagining the way this process works. And so that might mean we welcome some springtime college reps for the first time. But if we don't, we can guarantee that will happen again this fall. And I know some of you who are tuned in have attended several rep visits. And I know some students who are tuned in have never attended a college rep visit at school. And that's okay, because you will have more options and more opportunities. So I want to say to please be mindful of that list when we make it available in the fall, and sign up for the colleges that make sense for you. And if you're not seeing a school on the list that's a place you're familiar with or a college that you know you want to speak with, what I would ask you to do next is to look at your schedule and just sign up for 2 or 3 that happen to land during a study hall. That's a great way for you to just take time during your day and come hear from an expert, listen to them talk, and again, start to develop that criteria in big ways and in smaller, more subtle ways. All right, guys, we now are going to shift gears. I'm going to ask everybody to grab your smartphone or an iPad or another device, because we are going to play an interactive game on Kahoot. So I know our students have used Kahoot, parents, I don't know how many of you have, but I assure you it is easy. It is not hard at all to play along, but I'm going to have Mrs. Barnt stop sharing her screen. I will start sharing mine. But again, grab your smartphone because you're going to immediately be directed to the website kahoot.it, and then we will get going from there. So bear with me for just about a minute or so while we get things up and running.
And I believe technically you can play on your laptop if you want to keep one device. Ms. Hill and I, when testing it, felt like removing the Zoom screens from the questions was made us more successful in answering the questions, but certainly it is a website link. So if you are on one device and you want to stay on that device, good luck. So you're looking to go to that website, put in that PIN. I know that Taylor is playing along with you all. I'm here to manage the chat and keep an eye on how it is running. And so if you have any issues, please utilize the chat and I'll try to do my best to troubleshoot for you, although that's not my strong suit tonight.
These are some great usernames, all randomly generated.
And while participation is strongly encouraged, you certainly are not required. You can compete against your household, or you can all be on one.
Guys, I'm impressed. We have 48 who are actively participating, which is pretty close to our total number. So we are going to go ahead and get the ball rolling. So this will be a quiz, and I'll go ahead and give you a heads up that each question you have only 10 seconds. So you're going to want to put your answer in as quickly as you can. This is the alma mater of Lin-Manuel Miranda, who created and starred in Hamilton. "10 seconds goes so fast. You can see the breakdown here. Looks like the Hamilton College option only threw off 10 of you, but there were 10 who correctly guessed Wesleyan University. So now we will see our point totals from round 1. We have expert alpaca in the lead. The scores you may already have picked up on, you have the potential to earn more points the faster you answer. So keep that in mind. It looks like all of these people were correct, but expert alpaca was quickest. Question 2. Oprah graduated from this Southern school. Spelman threw some of you off, which is a great guess. It's a historically Black college, all-girls school in Atlanta. But the correct answer is Tennessee State University. All right, point totals. We now have dazzled alpaca in the lead. It's the night for our alpacas. And Zany Goat rose up 7 places. Well done. Question 3. Mark Cuban, billionaire, entrepreneur, TV personality, and investor whose net worth is an estimated $4.3 billion, attended Good job. The majority got this correct. It was the University of Indiana. Check our leaderboard. Red quail with a on fire symbol for being on an answer streak of 3. Okay, question 4. Jimmy Fallon studied computer science at this school until his senior year when he switched to communications. NYU, Boston College, both great guesses and threw some of you off. The correct answer here is College of St. Rose. Is that Kendall Beck's? I'm not sure how to, I'm not sure what that nickname is.
I don't know, but Excited Owl made a incredible climb. Congratulations.
Up 20 places. Well done. Okay, guys, just a few more questions here. Number 5, the alma mater of Kourtney Kardashian, the only Kardashian with a college degree. Yes, Southern California was in there as a great option, but the correct answer, University of Arizona. Our leaderboard now has Amiable Giraffe at the top. And guys, I didn't say this yet, but we do have prizes for our leaders. So keep that in mind with the next few questions. And if you can get on that leaderboard, our prize won't disappoint. Before graduating in 1987, Sandra Bullock was active in the theater department at this school. This is the first with the majority answering correctly. Sandra Bullock is a Carolina girl, East Carolina.
I wish I could see everyone's faces like I'm seeing Taylor's right now.
She is so engaged. All right, guys, final question. Diplomat, political scientist, civil servant, and professor who served as the 66th U.S. Secretary of State, Condoleezza Rice. University of Denver. Looks like that was not a well-known fact about Condoleezza Rice. Let's see our leaderboard. There are going to be 3 here, and we have a prize for all 3. Well done. If this represents one of you, we would love to know who you are. You can put in the chat either directly to Mrs. Barnt and me, or you can shoot us an email. But we have prizes for all three. Taylor, would you like to tell them what they've won?
You guys, hot off the press, University of Alabama, Comfort Colors. You can tell by the tag, it's official. Comfort Colors t-shirt. There's nothing on the back, it's just the front. Also, I have a confession. I accidentally got first place. So I would like to gift my winnings to the runner-up of not second, third, whoever was fourth place. You win an Alabama t-shirt.
We'll figure that out. We'll let fourth place know.
I swear I did not mean to do that. It was pure luck. I was just as shocked as everybody.
Well, you
didn't win the first time I played, so that's embarrassing.
Yeah, we played this with the juniors this week just to test it all out. So we could also pass one on to a junior who was high on the leaderboard. But guys, if you were on that leaderboard, send us your name and your preferred t-shirt size, and we will be sure to get these to you. The point, what I want to say about the game we just played, you may have caught on at some point with those 7 questions that the school that was the right answer in each category was actually always the school ranked the lowest. So these are, of course, very highly successful people, but that ranking, according to US News and World Report, has their colleges lower than the others that you saw. Now, of course, recognizing each of those celebrities, each of those politicians, everyone you saw in that mix, of course, is brilliant and potentially an anomaly, but we do want to point out that we think this is true for every single person, that the ranking of the college is not what determines the success a student will have while they're at that institution or once they leave that institution. And in making this point, I cannot have words that are better than the words in this particular book, Colleges That Change Lives. And so I'm just going to take a second and read a couple of paragraphs because I think they are paragraphs that every freshman and every sophomore needs to hear. Imagine that someone asked you to rate NFL, NBA, NHL, and MLB teams on one scale. Are the Colts better than the Yankees? How would you convert triples to fourth down conversions or breakaways to free throws? You couldn't. No one could. Yet when publications rank colleges and universities, they're essentially engaging in this kind of absurdity. How can anyone measure what happens in a small philosophy class in Hoboken against what happens in a large biology 101 lecture in Portland? And where does the individual student's growth come into play? No matter the absurdity, publications make these comparisons all the time, based on criteria dreamed up by their editors, many of whom never talk to an administrator, professor, or student before crowning champions and runners-up. Statisticians measure mostly input factors, incoming students' SAT scores and class ranks, selectivity, professor salaries, many of which are totally irrelevant to education. They know nothing about what happens to young minds and souls in the 4 years of college. Judging the quality of a college by the grades and scores of the freshmen it admits is like judging the quality of a hospital by the health of the patients it admits. What happens during the stay is what counts.
Thank you, Tia. I always love that passage, and I really love that game. What really resonated with me was that the obvious choice is not always the most direct path to where you want to be. So certainly be open-minded, be willing to learn about places you're less familiar with, because at the end of the day, you will thrive in an institution that's the best fit for you. So students and parents, thank you so much for your time and attention this evening. We hope we will see you all again in 2 weeks for our virtual case studies and admission experts panel. It's on Wednesday, February 24th, same time, 6:30 p.m., same place, Zoom. Ms. Hill has put the registration link in the chat. In just a moment, or I can put
Yes,
it in.
Yep, I'm pulling it up. And guys, I just want to say that of all the events I've ever been a part of, both in the admission world when I was an admission counselor and now in the college counseling world, a case studies is by far the most impactful. At this event, you all will be reading real, true applications. And frankly, just seeing those applications in and of itself is a great exercise. But you'll read these applications along with recommendation letters, and then you will be broken into small groups with the 4 experts who you see here leading your session and discussing with you the strengths of each applicant, the challenges they see with each applicant. And then as a small group, as a committee, you will be making an admission decision. And out of the 3 applicants, you will be required to admit 1, decline 1, and waitlist 1. And we assure you it won't be an easy decision. There are so many nuances to the files that it really creates some wonderful conversation. And when those conversations are over, we'll reconnect as a large group. We will discuss everyone's decisions, and then we will have a panel conversation with these 4 schools, which of course represent a pretty tremendous amount of variety. And from there, we'll separate. I know people will want this event recorded. We're not yet sure, frankly, if we will be able to record it just because of the nature of the content. So we really want as many people as possible to plan to be present. And I'm sorry I didn't get the link in there yet. I think Ms. Barnt is doing that. Caitlin, you might want to stop sharing your screen just as you're pulling up this content and then get the registration link in.
Yeah, I was just going to point out that if you were going to look for this link at a future time and you were to look in Patriot Connect on the calendar, you can also find your way. I hope your calendar doesn't pull as much as mine, but it probably pulls more since it pulls your whole student schedule. But you can also find the information on this event, confirming the date, time, and location right here. And then you just copy this link, and we will have you register through Patriot Connect. So you will need to be logged into Patriot Connect to register for this event. But otherwise, it is quick and simple of a registration. And you can register as many of your family members as you would like for that evening. We are closing in on the end of our program. We want to be respectful of your time. I know there has been conversation in the chat. Thank you for submitting your questions in advance. We certainly will look back through the pre-submitted questions and ensure that we were able to follow up on all of those, touch on them, and if not, you will hear from us directly. But certainly never hesitate to reach out. It's never too early or too late. So take care, enjoy the rest of your evening. The 3 of us, Ms. Hill, Ms. Floria, will hang back for just a few minutes. So if you have any lingering questions, put them in the chat or stay back, and we look forward to seeing you.
Thank you all.